On today's episode, how I won Toughest Mudder West with, Christopher Mendoza.
Christopher Mendoza.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. Thank you for listening. You could be listening to anything else in the world right now, but you chose to listen to our show, so thank you. You're listening to the number one rated obstacle course racing podcast in the world, according to Apple and Amazon.com. Thank you for rating and or reviewing our show. I appreciate it. On today's show, Christopher Mendoza. Chris has been on our show several times. He is one of the only 7 men to run 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder. And he's one of the 7 men to ever win a toughest mudder. That's a coincidence, huh? 7 different men have run 100 miles at World's Toughest. 7 different men have won a toughest mudder race. Remind me, we'll talk about that in a minute. Before we start, you can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Instagram, let me point you to a few accounts. Check out John Hobson at John Hobson. Jon Hobson. Follow Ryan Scully at Ryan Scully. Look for Melissa Sharkbait Dugan at Melissa_Sharkbait. You can find Elliot Rube at Elliot.Rube on Instagram. It's ELLIOT.RUEB. And check out Kim DeVos at Scarlet_Fox_TM. They are members of the world's toughest social media team. They are already at work also. They've already been promoting previous episodes. We've got some other members that have already signed up that are still getting started. So look for more information on them soon. I'm still looking for a few more members, though. If you would like to join John, Scully, Sharkbait, Elliot, and the Scarlet Fox on our social media team, shoot me an email at willhicks@gmail.com with social media in the subject line. The social media team is doing a lot of the promotion of the podcast so that I don't have to. I am leaning into making more episodes of the podcast, especially right between now and World's Toughest Mudder. There are a lot of people who are a lot better at social media than I am, and I would like them to do what they're good at so I can focus on making. There's no one else making new episodes of the podcast. That's on me. So I want to focus on that. So thank you, social media guys, Elliot, Melissa, John, Scully, and Sharkbait, and the Scarlet Fox. If you would like to be a member of the World's Toughest social media team, let me know. willhicks@gmail.com, social media and subject line, and then in the body of the email, shoot me some links to your social media accounts so we can see what you're working with. I could use a listener or two from Canada to help us. I could use a listener or two from Europe. We have Dennis Balsamas from Australia who's going to help us out. Looking for more from the international crowd also. Let's talk Tough Mudder news. Last episode, we talked about all the official rules for World's Toughest Mudder. If you haven't heard that or if you have questions about the rules, check that out. One of the new rules we talked about was the introduction of age groups to World's Toughest Mudder. This is the first year there will be any age group categories at World's Toughest. The big discussion point online hasn't been so much that there are age groups, but what those age groups are. There are 4 age groups for the men and the women. They are 16 to 19 years old, 20 to 39, 40 to 49, and 50 plus. Again, 16 to 19, 20 to 39, 40 to 49, and 50 plus. Mike and Katelyn of the Obstacle Running Adventures podcast were discussing the age groups when Katelyn had a great idea.
A 20-year-old competing against a 39-year-old. I think maybe, and this would be like super hard to do, but I feel like instead of age groups, they should do it by like life events. Because like,
how do you mean?
A 20-year-old who's like still in college, has time to train, isn't working in the real world, and somebody who's like a mom with a 40-hour job and 3 children at home and a husband. Like,
would that be okay?
You can't put those people in the same category.
I totally agree, Katelyn. You cannot put those in the same category. So instead of age groups, I think we should take Katelyn's idea and run with it. I think we should have life experience groups. So instead of ranking runners in their age groups, which are completely arbitrary, we should use life experience groups instead. It's too late for this year, but I utilized my vast network of connections at Tough Mudder headquarters, and this is what we're proposing as the tentative plan for 2019. Again, these are not the official life experience groups of 2019. I want to be clear. These are not the official life experience groups of World's Toughest Mudder 2019. So instead of the 4 age groups for 2018, we're looking at 5 life experience groups for 2019. Here's what they are. Number 1 is married mom with 3 kids, but really it's 4 kids when you count the husband. This is the essential oils category. Number 2 is for college students with a bunch of classes, but I'm really focusing on being a social media ambassador right now. This is the discount code in bio category. Number 3 is single mother of 3, but all my kids have paws. This is the who rescued who category. Number 4 is retired, and all the Social Security money goes to my gym membership and protein powder. This is the white tank top old man strength category. And number 5, the last category, is dad who says kipping pull-ups are real pull-ups. This is the if you want cardio, lift faster, bro category. Again, these are not yet official for 2019, but you heard it here first. So well done, Katelyn. I agree with you. It's a great idea. If you guys aren't listening to Obstacle Running Adventures, you should. Pause this for a second. Go download their last episode right now. It's called Hartford Marathon. If you don't like it, I will give you your money back. It's time for a new segment on the show. It's time for You're So Smart.
Hey baby, you're so smart. Look at what you're doing now.
This is the part of the show where you get to show how smart you are. Why? Because you're so smart.
Hey baby, you're so smart. Look at what you're doing now.
I mentioned 7 different men have run 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder. Do you know who those 7 men are? That's the easy part. Also, 7 different men have won a Toughest Mudder race. Who are those 7 men? Email me those 14 names. 7 100-mile men and 7 Toughest Mudder male winners to World's Toughest Podcast at gmail.com with So Smart in the subject line. If you get all 700 milers right, I will give you a free shout out on the show. Yes. And if you get all 14 names, I will give you a free shout out on the show. I'll give you some help with it right now. There's less overlap between those 2 groups than you would think. There are only 4 men that are on both lists to run 100 miles and win a Toughest Mudder. I already gave you the first one, Kris Mendoza.
Christopher Mendoza.
Second one should be easy, Ryan Atkins.
Ooh, baby, that's going to be spicy.
The third one is obvious if you think about it. John Albon ran 105 with Atkins in 2016, and he won Toughest Mudder UK in 2017. The fourth man to run 100 at World's Toughest and win a Toughest Mudder, Trevor Psychos. He ran 105 at World's Toughest 2016, and he won Toughest Mudder East in 2017. He's also the man who finished in second behind Kris this past weekend in Norcal. And that has been You're So Smart.
Hey baby, you're so smart. Look at what you're doing now.
So last weekend was Toughest Mudder Norcal. We talked about it pretty in depth 2 episodes ago with Heather Bodie. One thing I mentioned, but I don't really think I emphasized enough, is the difference between the daytime and the nighttime toughest races. Toughest Mudder West was held during the day, starting at 8 a.m., finishing at 4 p.m. Every other Toughest Mudder, since they've introduced them in the past 2 years, has been held in the middle of the night, starting at midnight and ending at 8 a.m. Doing a Toughest Mudder during the day this past weekend was fine. I had fun, but doing the race in the middle of the night is a special experience. I have traveled literally around the world to run Toughest Mudder in the middle of the night. Last year, I went to Atlanta and Chicago. I flew my whole family with me to Canada to run Toughest Mudder Whistler. And I also did the local toughest, the one closest to me here in Southern California. This year, I flew to Texas. And I flew literally around the world to Berlin to run in Germany's Toughest Mudder. All of them amazing, amazing experiences. Wouldn't trade them for anything. I will remember different parts of each race for the rest of my life. I love Toughest Mudder at night. Last week, I went to Northern California and ran Toughest during the day. It was good. It was really, really good. But I don't think I'd fly the hour from San Diego to Northern California to do that race again next year. I know I wouldn't fly across the country for it. And there's literally no way in the world I would cross an ocean to run Toughest Mudder during the day. I did all that for the night races, and I would do it again next year for the night races, but not for a normal 8-hour race during the day. You've probably heard that Tough Mudder is getting rid of the 2 5-mile loops for 2019. It's good news. They're bringing back a single loop course, or a single 8 to 10 mile course. They know they screwed up this year. They know they made a bad decision. Did not go over well. I sincerely hope they keep Toughest Mudder where it belongs, in the middle of the night. Let's give away some Merrell Trail Running shoes. We're going to talk with Kris Mendoza in a minute. Guess what kind of shoes he wears? Here's a hint. You can win a pair of the same shoes that Toughest Mudder West champion Kris Mendoza wears by texting the word tough to the number 22828. That's tough to the number 22828. That will subscribe you to our email newsletter and enter you to win a brand new pair of Merrell Agility Peak Flex or the Merrell All Out Crush 2.0s. If you are international, non-US, email worldstoughestpodcast@gmail.com with Merrell in the subject line and your name, email address, and phone number in the body of the email to enter. We've already given away 2 pair of shoes this past week. 2 pairs of shoes? We never settled that. Let's give away another pair. Can I get a drum roll, please? Today's winner of a new pair of Merrell Trail Running shoes is PJ Magpanty. Congratulations, PJ. Well done. Look for an email from Merrell and I in the next couple of days with information on how to claim your prize. I got an email from one of our previous winners, Erin Broadfoot. I wrote Erin telling her congratulations and how to claim her prize. She wrote me back, "Hi, Will. Agility Peak Flex are my favorite shoe to run worlds in. Thanks again. This is pretty darned awesome. Cheers, Erin." Erin didn't say darned, so she was pretty excited. Congratulations, Erin. You can enter too, totally free. Text the word tough to the number 22828. Before we talk with our guest, let's read some iTunes reviews.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars.
5 stars. 5 stars.
Our first review comes from the UK. I love our UK listeners. From the UK, Bone. He's from the UK. I think it's pronounced Bonner. From the UK, Bonner writes, "Greatest show out there. 5 stars. I've been listening to the archived shows all day at work, and this is brilliant. Enjoyable to listen to, and great information about everything." Thank you, Bonner. Look, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. We're a family-friendly show. We're going to go with Bonner. He mentions listening to the archived shows. We've had almost 2 years' worth of archived shows with episodes on almost anything you could want to know about World's Toughest Mudder. Training info, nutrition info, pit crew info. Guys, please go into the archives if there's something you want to learn about in the next few weeks going into World's Toughest Mudder. Thank you, Bonner, for the review and the reminder. If you'd like to be a part of the show like Bonner, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Just open the Purple Podcast app on your iPhone or iPad and search for World's Toughest Podcast. Click our logo and scroll down to click Write a Review. If you're on Android, you can go to Amazon.com and leave a review also. Just search Amazon for World's Toughest Podcast. Click our logo and then scroll down to click Write a Customer Review, and I will read it on a future episode. I'm almost caught up on reviews. If you would like me to read your review on air, get a shout out, leave your review now. Someone sent me a message, and I'm not sure what happened to it. It sounds terrible. Between Instagram and Twitter and email, text messages, Facebook, I have so many inboxes. If I ever don't reply to you or you feel ignored, I apologize. That is not my intent at all. Sometimes things just fall off the plate. So this message I got said, "Hey man, love the show. Can I get a shout out?" And I don't really know what to do with that. Like, I can say hi to you, but what does that do? I know it makes you happy for a minute, but I don't think it makes the show better. If there's a way we can make the show better and give you a shout out, I am all for it. Shoot me an email with your thoughts on a previous episode. Maybe you have an idea for a guest or a topic we should cover. Maybe something crazy happened at your last race and you think everyone should hear about it. Shoot, man, you can leave a review on iTunes and you know I will read it on air. Help me make the show better, and I am happy to shout you out all day long. Kris Mendoza is one of 7 men to earn the coveted orange jacket for running 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder. He is the only one of those 7 to have earned his doctorate. He is the only obstacle course racer in the world with his own theme song. Kris won Toughest Mudder West in Norcal last week with 45 miles. It's time to talk with Kris Mendoza. Let's go to the phones. Christopher Mendoza, you won first place at Toughest Mudder West with 45 miles. Congratulations.
Thank you, 5-star Will. I saw you out there. You had a good time, didn't you?
I did have a good, not as good as you, though.
Yeah. I feel like I had a pretty good day out there. Had a lot of fun. It's great seeing you and everyone else.
You have finished in second place at Toughest Mudder before this year in Michigan. How did it feel to finally win one?
You know, that's what happens when Ryan Atkins doesn't show up to a race, you know, allows other people to actually win, you know, once in a while. So, no, but it was an awesome feeling. It was just great being out there with a bunch of the other competitors and just kind of grinding through that whole 8 hours. And man, it was just a pretty fun and pretty perfect day.
Atkins wasn't there, but you had stout competition. 2 of your fellow 100-mile orange jacket winners from 2016 were there with you, Trevor Sykos and Austin Azar. What was going through your head at the start line?
Yeah, I mean, at the start line, I mean, those are 2 of my really good friends. It's just like, you know, actually I had no idea Azar was going to be there until about 10 minutes before. I knew Trevor was going to be there. But I mean, for me, it was just kind of like see what the day gives me. I really focused a lot on kind of just like running my own race and, you know, trying to, especially even in training, just kind of like focusing on what you can control. And you can't control who shows up, but you can control your mentality and how you race. So, I mean, I was excited. I was excited to see those guys out there because I always know that they're going, you know, to push me super hard. And, you know, we're going to have a good time out there. So, yeah, it was great to see him out there. I'm glad I got to race against him.
You talk about controlling what you can control. This was the first ever daytime Toughest Mudder. How did that affect your preparation going in?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, the preparation was, I loved having the daytime toughest. As far as like the day before, I didn't have to like change my sleep cycle or change my eating or anything. So that was super helpful. I just knew that it was going to be a little bit warmer than the previous toughest mudders, so I didn't really have to worry about, bringing a wetsuit, or I brought a windbreaker. I brought my bug mitts just in case. I didn't think it was going to get anywhere near as cold, so I was definitely planning on those warmer conditions out there.
How did the first part of the race go? Did you start in front?
Actually, the first lap, kind of like a pack of me, Trevor, Glenn Race, and Robert Wilshire. And we kind of just stuck together, just ran that first lap together. And Robert, Trevor, and I actually crossed the finish line at the same time. We decided that we wanted the green bib, and we were just going to cut it up into 3 pieces, make some capes out of them. So that was the plan, but none of us got the green bibs. I have no idea who actually has it or who gets the cape, but I'm still waiting for that.
Those bibs aren't that big. Those are going to be 3 small capes.
Yeah, they're going to be small capes, but they're going to look really cool. I mean, and Trevor was like, that's the only bib I don't have, so he needed that one to complete his repertoire. So, so Tough Mudder, we're still waiting on our bibs, or our bib.
You know what?
We can split it 3 ways. We share.
That's a thing that some of us talked about. There were no green bibs. There were no leader bibs either.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't even realize that until after the race about the leader bibs. Someone's like, "Oh yeah, no one gave you that." I was like, "Oh yeah," kind of forgot about it. But it was kind of a different vibe to the race because of the Tough Mudder was going on too. But we still had our own separate bibs from them. But it was it is what it is. So I'm still waiting for my second leader bib. I'd like that too. Also Tough Mudder.
You mentioned the regular Tough Mudder people. The toughest mudder started at 8 a.m., 9:30 a.m. or so is when the regular Tough Mudder kicked off. How did having non-competitive people out there affect the race for you?
Yeah, so I was worried about that as far as the race is concerned. I just wasn't sure how it was going to play out having people out there. And granted, Sunday's there's a lot less people out there. So I was hoping that it wasn't a big factor, but Coach actually, what he did every start line is he really made sure that the regular Tough Mudder and Tough Mudder half people knew that a race was going on. And everyone out there was just super encouraging and super helpful. And I honestly really liked it. The only time that there were people actually in our lane, because they had separate lanes for the toughest mudder people, was during Mud Mile. But if you told them that you were racing, everyone was more than willing to get out of the way and even help you if you needed it. So it was really, really cool actually to have all those people out there. So it didn't affect my race. I'm not sure if anyone else felt like it hindered them at all, but everyone was super helpful out there, and I personally really liked it.
You mentioned Mud Mile. What did you think of Mud Mile and the obstacles out there?
Yeah, I mean, so this race, actually, all the obstacles were open from the time we started. So, like I said, there was a pack of a few of us at the very beginning of the race, and we all helped each other up through Mud Mile. And after the first few laps, we were able to kind of find a line that we could all do by ourselves, or at least most of the leaders could do by ourselves. So it was definitely a challenge those first few laps, but afterwards, started getting a rhythm, kind of figuring out where exactly you could climb, because they were still pretty steep. There wasn't a clear line to go through. So it was really after the first couple laps, it was fine. I was able to get through it by myself, and it was kind of all good, which is by that time we'd started to kind of separate from each other. So it's a good thing.
Did the Mud Mile tear up your legs like it tore up mine?
I was wearing compression, pants the whole time, so I didn't really feel it being that bad. So did you wear shorts, Will?
Yeah, I was wearing short compression underwear and just running shorts.
Good Lord. So whatever part of your skin was exposed, at least during the race and after, it just burns. We're 2 days after, my arms still burn a ton. And I don't know if it was from the wind or the mud or the sun or all of it, but man, I tried to take a bath or shower and my arms sting horribly.
Talk about the weather. It was windy the whole time, and it was hot.
Yeah, I mean, that was the weird thing. Like, it was supposed to get up into the 80s, but it was warm. But because they have so many water obstacles, I felt like it was, it was pretty good. I actually look forward to the water obstacles. Sometimes in a toughest, you're like dreading Arctic Enema. I was actually looking forward to it every lap, to clean you off, to get you a little cool. And then it was windy, so, when you got out, it was a little cool, but it dried you off really fast, and all the grip obstacles were super dry because of that wind. And I think that's kind of what killed my skin, was just like the mud, the wind, and the sun. But, yeah, I mean, it was pretty windy at some times, but it didn't really, affect anything. We didn't have a spear throw or anything like Spartan Race, so we weren't worrying about that.
I didn't think of it until you said that, Kris, but because of the wind, all the grip obstacles were dry, and that's never happened at a Toughest Mudder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I all the obstacles for me, this is the first toughest I've actually hadn't failed an obstacle, and I think a big part. I mean, yeah, I've been training a lot better, but I just felt way more confident on the obstacles, knowing that they weren't wet, and I actually, when I was holding on, I wasn't just going to slip off randomly. It was a huge advantage to this one for sure.
What did you think of the terrain of the course?
Yeah, I mean, I personally love the terrain. Actually, it reminded me a lot of Vegas, just because it was pretty dry out there. It's pretty hilly. Every 5 miles was a little over 800 feet a gain. So it's just a lot of rolling hills, no super steep climbs, but, for everything was pretty runnable for me. And the ground was hard. It wasn't super muddy. So I really enjoyed the terrain. I thought that obviously it seemed to suit what I'm good at pretty well, and I really enjoyed it. So just those rolling hills kind of kept it interesting. And, compared to Michigan was very flat. It's definitely not flat, but there weren't any mountainous climbs. So I thought it was a good in-between.
Usually 4 hours into a Toughest Mudder is one of the harder parts of the race at 4 a.m. or so. What was it like midway through the daytime race?
Yeah, so midway is about when I took the lead. And so for me, I was just super stoked actually around that time. I don't remember if it was through mile 20 or 25 that I took the lead, but I had the lead at 25 for sure. And I was just kind of looking at my watch, looking at my splits, and I didn't have a low during that time. So for me, I was I'm halfway. I was kind of at that point still thinking I might be able to lock in 50 miles. And so I hit 25 just before 4 hours. And so at that point, I was feeling good. I was moving well, and things were clicking for me. That low point for me didn't come until a little bit later. For me, it was around miles 35 to 40. Your legs start to get a little sore, things like that. I kind of didn't eat enough, so bonked a little bit, but yeah, it's kind of where I was at in the middle of the race.
Tell me about when you hit that point. You passed me, and I said, good job, and you said, I got one more after this. It turned out you needed 2 more after that. Was that about when you were hitting that wall?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I was going with kind of my same nutrition strategy the whole race. And then all of a sudden, lap 35 to 40, I just man, I felt like I was going to pass out. And it was around that time I also saw Allison Tyne. She's oh, you're doing so well. And in my mind, I'm I know Trevor's right behind me. I know that guy can close. He's no stranger to endurance races. He just ran 200 miles a couple months ago. So I was nervous at that point, and I just had to keep moving. And once I finally got some more fuel in me, I ate a lot. I think I put in 500 calories just right there, just because I feel like I felt so far behind on nutrition that, I just needed something. And after that, thankfully I got a little boost and kind of, got out of it pretty much anytime you're in any of these ultra races, all it is it's you problem solving the entire race. And that's probably like the biggest thing you learn running all these races is problems come up, and you can't always control what comes up, but you can control how you react to it. And, you know, it's all about solving the problem, working the problem, and moving on from there. So thankfully, there's only a few miles of me feeling absolutely horrible. But then I kind of rebounded. But I mean, obviously at that point, your legs are pretty tired. So you're also fighting your general fatigue. So, but yeah, it was definitely a low moment, but, I knew that I had to keep pushing just like that. Just the thought of winning the race, I just couldn't, and I knew I couldn't let up because Trevor was right behind me. And rumor has it he's a little psycho. So, yeah, that's that joke.
That's very clever. Thank you, Kris.
Yeah, no problem. Got you.
When people think of Toughest Mudder or endurance obstacle course racing, problem solving isn't the first thing that most people probably think of. Can you talk about that? Like, what kind of problems come up, and how do you build that problem solving skill?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I think that I started following and just like kind of running some ultra marathons, and that's kind of where I started being a little more conscious of it, is because with following all these ultras that can take 20 plus hours, you know, they're always talking about working the problem or, you know, fixing the problem. And, you know, the same goes if you're running an ultra in an OCR, but you might have a few different problems than you would in just a running ultra. So, I mean, a lot of the things that I'm always worried about, leg cramping, chafing is a huge one. You know, bonking from food. Most of the time, if you're reaching a low, think about your nutrition and how much you've eaten, because that's probably what's going to get you out of that space. You know, how are your fluids? You know, I always made sure I at least was drinking about half a liter a lap, if not more. So I was being consistent with what I was putting in. You know, and there's a lot of other things, feet sores, like blisters, things like that you just creep up. And when you start running these races, you're kind of prepared for them. And I had my crew, my parents, they kind of had everything ready for me that I needed every lap that I would come in. So hopefully prevent any of those problems from happening. So you really just got to be aware that these things are going to happen in an ultra. And, you know, you're not going to ever have like a perfect race where you're feeling 100% the whole time, but it's how quickly you solve those problems is how you're going to best react. And a huge thing that didn't come up in this race, but is cold. We face that a lot at WTM or the overnight races. You make sure you're not waiting until you're too cold to put on your gear. So, yeah, I mean, those are just kind of a few things that pop to the top of my head talking about problem solving out there.
You know, that's good advice for anyone, even the non-elites, that someone wants to go to World's Toughest and get 50 miles, but, oh, man, I'm chafing. I guess I'm done. Oh, man, my hands are covered in blisters. I guess I'm done. Well, no, not necessarily, man. Figure it out and get back out there. You'll be fine. Yeah,
no, and like, I mean, I remember my first year going out to WTM. It's just like I didn't really know what I was doing, and I had to stop for multiple hours because I was so cold in the middle of the night. And, you know, it doesn't matter what your goal is out there. You're all going there for a different reason. You have a different goal, but whatever it is, like, these are all things that are preventable. And I think it's funny when people, you know, don't think that this happens to, you know, people who are going for the win or the podium, but, you know, it happens to all of us. It's just after so many races, you kind of figure out how to work the problems a little bit better and how to react to them and even prevent them if you can. So, I mean, everyone's going to go through lows in a race, and I don't think you can ever stop that. But, yeah, actually, one of the things I want to mention is one of the things that helped me get through my lows is just stop focusing on yourself and just like get out of your little pity party and just start focusing on other people and like saying hi to other people, helping other people out. And that's, I think, the great thing about this type of course that we get to run is even though it's looped and it's the same stuff pretty much every lap, it's like, well, you get to see people out there that you're friends with and that you know. So, I mean, as much as I guess people will tell me like, hey, it was great seeing you out there. It's like, I love seeing everyone out there just pushing themselves, and just the ability to like say hi to them, tell them to keep going. It really gets you out of your own little pity party. And so I don't know, that works for me. And if you've ever seen Rhea run, just smile. Just smiling while you're running, even if it hurts, helps a lot. So.
You know, it's counterintuitive because you think, oh, I only have so much energy, and I need to save it for me. But you spend a little bit, and you give a high five or good job, and it creates more energy. You spent a little, but you got a little back too.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, out there, it's not really like the physical energy that you're going to really expend. It's that mental energy, that ability just to keep grinding and keep moving. But, if you're not focused on how much everything hurts, and instead just like focusing on how lucky you are to be out there, and focusing on all the other cool people out there, and just asking other people how they're doing and what they're doing. And, we're all out there together at the end of the day. We're all running the same race, so it's really cool to see everyone out there just like pushing themselves.
The race for first was close up to the very end. Tell me what happened when you came in after you finished your 45th mile.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much from 25 on, like I had a little bit of a lead, and I knew I was picking up a little bit of time every lap, but Trevor was still maintaining pretty close to me. I came in at 3:38, so you can go out for another lap until 3:45. And the last split I got, Trevor was 7 minutes behind me. So theoretically, if he picked up any time, and he could have started that last lap by 3:45 if he was, gaining on me. So in my mind, I was just thinking, okay, the chances of him coming in and getting from the finish line all the way back to the start line in 7 minutes is unlikely. But I didn't want to leave that up to chance, because I knew that, Trevor has a history of closing really, really strong. And, a 45-minute lap would have been super hard to do at that time, but I didn't want to take it for granted. And so I was like, you know what? I might as well just get a little extra fuel, get some water, and then just head out. And to be honest, I had no intentions of finishing that mile 50, but my goal was, if I ran far enough into the course, I'd be able to see if Trevor went out for another lap and if he was actually getting close to finishing that lap, because he'd have to finish by 4:30. So it was kind of just keeping him behind me and making sure. It's almost kind of like putting a stamp on it. Just, hey, Trevor, don't try anything crazy. Don't try to come out for this 45-minute lap. I'm still out here and I'm still ahead of you. So didn't want to give him any crazy ideas. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it was I just kind of went out, took it pretty easy, and kind of cruised until I was probably 4 miles into the lap, and it was almost time. And my parents actually came out, and they were like, yeah, Trevor didn't go out. So I pretty much just collapsed on the floor and just laid there for about 5 minutes. I was done.
Well, tell me about that. You found out you won from your parents coming out on the course?
Yeah, there's like a little hill kind of right before Lumberjack, and they were just yelling, and I was like, well, why the heck are they just yelling? I'm like, just please tell me something. Tell me anything. I'd been out there all lap and like hadn't really seen anyone, and then they're like, yep. I was like, so did Trevor go out? And he's like, no. They're like, no, Trevor didn't go out. So they were yelling and celebrating, and I just collapsed on the floor and laid there and kind of just like looked out at the course. And it was crazy because no one was on the course. I was the last person out there, except for actually Matt Lift was trying to finish that lap, but he was a little ahead of me. So I just laid there for a while and just kind of soaked it in, and it was a great feeling. It was awesome. And, I thought that they were going to actually come try to pick me up, like the Tough Mudder people, since they have those cars.
Right.
Walk it back in.
The go-karts or the gators?
Yeah. I was like, they'll for sure come out and get me or tell me that Trevor didn't get out. But no. So we ended up walking it in. I ended up walking it in with Matt Lister. So that was a lot of fun. It was an incredible feeling just to know, like, finally locked it in after all these races.
What were the emotions like on top of that podium?
Yeah, lots of emotions. So, I mean, for me, this is like the first race I've actually won. We could get into like, technically we won Team Relay last year, but yeah, it doesn't really count in my book. We won, or I won, and it was just like, it was crazy. One of the huge things going through my mind, especially those last few laps, is like, I knew how the girls' podium was actually stacking up, and for me, a huge motivation was like, being on the top of the podium with Rhea. It was like, it meant a lot to me. We're really good friends, and we live like 20 minutes apart from each other now, so we train together. And just to be like on top of the podium with like one of your best friends is an amazing feeling. And it made the win that much more special. And just to know so many people out there were like supporting me, and just the road I've taken, pretty much 4 years ago, I started running. I started like this whole athletic journey, and just to kind of have people that I looked up to, and now kind of being amongst them and being, finally winning a race, even beating some of them is pretty special. So I'm not taking it for granted. And, the other part of me is thinking, well, we still have my big race, WTM. So we still have another big race to go, but I'm definitely soaking it in and appreciating the experience, and just super happy with the day. Yeah.
You mentioned World's Toughest. We're about a month out from World's Toughest Mudder. How does this win affect you going into World's Toughest?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to let it like get to me. Some people are like, oh, like you won, like that's great. But for me, I don't know, like I've been so focused this year on like enjoying. So like while I am focused, I want to win World's Toughest Mudder, and that is like my biggest race. Like I've been so focused this year on just enjoying the process of training and like the whole process of running and just enjoying what I'm doing, that I'm really just focused on getting after it and training this next month and enjoying my training this month, and, focusing what I can control. And, who knows what's going to happen at WTM, but like, for me, that's always been the race. That's the race that got me into the sport, and that's the race I've always wanted to win. But, you never know what's going to happen the day of. So I just have to really just be grateful for winning this last race, and then realizing that I still have a lot of hard work I got to put in this next month, but I got to be smart, because a huge thing is people can drive themselves into the ground and be injured by the time race day comes. So just kind of balancing training hard and training smart, and just enjoying this last few months of fall, where I'll be able to actually train out in Colorado. So I'm excited for this next month, and I'm excited for World Toughest Mudder, and the competition there is always heats up, and I'm just super stoked to be out there with everyone. So yeah.
You mentioned your mom and dad being out there as your pit crew in Sonoma. Mm-hmm. What was it like having them there for your win?
Yeah, it was crazy. It just worked out really well that they were able to come up for the weekend, and they've crewed me for World's Toughest Mudder before. And so to have them there was it was super awesome. Even Allison Ty was like, wow, like things are coming together this race for you. She's like, now that you're winning races and stuff, like, this is awesome, and your parents are here, and like it just kind of like all came together. And for them, they're super supportive out there, and just they kind of know my mentality and what gets me going in the race. And so it's great to have them out there, and they pretty much had my pit stops dialed in. I honestly don't think I stopped moving until my pit for the last lap when I was deciding to go out. So like they were just on point the whole time, and were just really able to help me out. And it made it definitely more special having them out there. It's great.
They're pretty popular too amongst the community. Like they're friendly, and it seems like they know a lot of people. I look forward to seeing them. It was great.
Well, yeah, it's super funny. They when we got back to the hotel, they're like, man, that was the most fun we've had in an event all like ever. So like even more than Worlds before, like, cause we feel like we know so many more people. And so they really like love the community now. They enjoy it. They love spending time with everyone out there. And I think the more people they get to know, like the more fun they have. Like they love seeing you out there, Will, and just like other crazy people like Carlo Piscatello and just like all these other people. So, they love it. They enjoy it. They'll be at World's Toughest Mudder this year. So they're excited for that too.
Okay. Slightly off topic. Everyone usually changes clothes after they race.
Yeah.
Tell me about your post-race podium outfit.
Yeah, I mean, so you have to look good. You have to make sure that if you're going to make the podium, you have a good outfit to wear. So I decided that if I were to be on the podium, I had a sweet outfit. A few months ago, I had bought some of those sweet Coach T Mud Coach shorts. So I brought some of those.
Kind of short shorts.
And then, they're very short shorts. They're like short, like, I don't even know, biker shorts. I don't even know what they're considered. They're pretty much like what a coach would wear in the 80s. And so those sweet shorts that you see Coach wearing at the start line. And then Morgan Mackay designed a World's Toughest Mudder like stick figure T-shirt. So I got to wear that too. So I was a little ticked off because, Coach was he was emceeing the award ceremony, and he was giving me a hard time that I needed to change before the award ceremony. But I think once I put on the goods, he was like, okay, I guess that's acceptable. So, you got to look classy up there on the podium. Made sure I had some of my Merrell shoes and Merrell gear out there too. So bright lime green hat. So I looked extra ridiculous for everyone.
Speaking of Merrell, do you have any sponsors or anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I mean, Merrell's been a huge sponsor for me, just with gear. That really helped me just support not even just my OCR events, but even like my ultra marathons and just other random adventures I like to go on. So yeah, Merrell's been huge. And then I just started working with this. It's a CBD oil company, like a topical company, and they're based out of Golden. So started using their products kind of as recovery. They kind of have like an icy hot formulation that you kind of just rub on your muscles, and they also have like a systemic rub-in that kind of just helps in recovery. So I've been trying that out. So far it seems to be working well, helping in recovery. So yeah, that's been great too.
What's the name of that company?
Arcanum Edge Sports. Yeah, they actually started sponsoring some like rugby teams and stuff like that too. So I don't know, it's kind of a new thing, but testing it out and seeing if it's working for me. But so far, so good.
What Merrells did you run the race in?
So I ran in the All Out Crush 2s. Yeah, the laced version for this race. Yeah. And for me, like, I think the longest I've ran in those shoes is 50 miles. And I mean, my feet felt great the whole race. This race wasn't super rocky. So, I mean, my feet felt fine the whole time because they're a more minimal shoe. If I'm going for a longer race, I'm really looking at the Agility Peak 2s. For anything longer, they have a little more cushion. So those are kind of my two go-to shoes.
Kris, any last thoughts on Toughest Mudder West?
Well, I just want to thank everyone out there. It was just like a super incredible experience. And, I mean, I just had a great time. Thanks, Will, for being out there. And yeah, look forward to WTM and just having fun with everyone else out there. So thanks, Will.
Christopher Mendoza, thanks much.
Thank you, 5-star Will. 5 stars. 5 to end every show.
Special thanks to Dr. Mendoza for appearing in this episode. Well done, Kris. I like all my interview guests. I really do. If I don't like somebody, I will not have them on the show. I'm trying to think. I think that's pretty sure. Like, I don't want to lie. I'm pretty sure that's true. Don't be weird about it. But if you see Kris at a race, you should go up and say hi. His parents, too. But be sure to call Mrs. Mendoza, Mrs. Mendoza. Just try to trick you. Oh, call me Katie. But don't fall for it. Better not. Mr. and Mrs. Mendoza. Be sure to enter to win a free pair of Merrell Trail Running shoes by texting the word TOUGH to the number 22828. And do you like the show? Do you really like the show? Did you miss me when I was gone? Did you miss the show when it was gone? Prove it. This is the week. Nay, this is the day you leave a review for the show on iTunes. And I will read it on a future episode. I will talk to you soon. Go spend time with someone you love.